Hi, I'm Carrie Ann Stout, founder and CEO of Vinco Bar Exam Coaching. And we are continuing on with our series of interviewing some of our former students who have successfully passed the bar exam. And today we have Jenn with us, who is going to be talking about her experience taking and passing the bar exam and a bit about her experience with Vinco. So good morning, Jenn. Welcome. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. Finally enjoying some not rainy weather.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been raining for like 8 years. Um, so we're going to just dive in and have a conversation about the bar exam. And so my first question for you is, when you were looking into getting like private coaching or private tutoring or just something extra to help with the bar exam, what were those factors that you were sort of looking at? Like, what was on your checklist of like, this is what I want in this person or program or something like that?
So I had two really important considerations. I work full time in legal services, so I was looking for something that was tailored to my work schedule. And I also have a very unpredictable court schedule. So I was looking for something that would fit those needs and also something that'll fit my learning style. I have trouble with MBEs. Essays are fine, but I wanted something to be more tailored to multiple choice questions.
So getting that approach that would work best for you.
Mhm.
And now follow up on that. Did you work full time all the way throughout bar prep?
I took a month
A
off,
month off. Okay.
full
Yeah.
4 weeks.
Okay. And so, but up until that point, you were working full time with
Yes.
that. Okay, awesome. And so, on that, like on a similar sort of note with that question, I all the time, like say, like the number one question I get asked is like, what exactly do you do? Like, what is bar exam coaching? You know, people are familiar with like the concept of tutoring, but as you know, like this really isn't that. It isn't that classic, like, let's sit down and review the law together. And so I was wondering if you could talk for a minute or two as to kind of what did bar prep coaching look like for you? What was that relationship like? Like, what could students expect out of that coaching relationship?
So I think it was more like holistic support. Like tutoring is more about substance versus coaching is more about how to learn to take the test and how to write essays in a way that's going to get graded better than just kind of like word vomiting when you're taking a law school final. And also, you know, if I did have questions about substance, it would get answered. But coaching was mostly about like, you know, how to take the test, but also like checking in on my well-being. And the really important thing was checking on my well-being to prevent burnout because I
Mm.
had started prep a lot earlier than most people who would be studying full time. And I was, studying 4 hours a day in addition to working 8 to 9 hours a day.
Yeah, that's a lot, right? And that's why you would start earlier because you can only do so much in any given day. But I really like the phrase you used about learning more about the test, like how to take the test, and that is a really big focus for us. Like that's an intentional focus on our end that. You've probably heard me say this before, and if anyone's watched any of these videos, I've probably said this before, but I have no doubt that any student who comes to us can learn the law and knows the law. In fact, many students who don't pass the bar exam know more law than I do, but where they're struggling is that they don't know how to take the test. And so I'm glad to hear that played out for you in your coaching relationship, that you feel like that's something that was brought to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And so um, let's talk a little bit about now. This was your second time taking the bar exam, and I think it's really helpful for students to hear about changes that people made. So some things maybe you did last time that weren't so helpful, or some changes you implemented this time that you thought were really helpful, because students go into bar prep and they don't necessarily know what traps to look out for, or what the potential pitfalls are. So what are maybe just one, two things that you think really made the difference for you on this time around?
I did MBEs every day, even if it was just a set of 15. I did them every day. And I was very consistent with it. And I, kept track of the type of questions I was getting wrong. Um, even if I wasn't, and the second thing I did is even if I wasn't writing essays, I read essays and I exposed myself to the kinds of questions that get asked, but also the laws that get, because you learned a law by like watching it applied to the essay. So reading, and you have to take the sample answers with a grain of salt, because they're not the model answers you should be writing. So I would go to the sample answers and just pick out the law and highlight the law and see if I was able to spot it, an issue spot. So I just exposed myself to just like casually reading like MEE questions.
To kind of keep in that practice. I want to highlight something you just said, which is that I have yet to come across a company that gives sample answers that are actually like written in that
30 minutes.
That strict, like IRAC form, right? They're not bad, but they're not the way they're teaching you to write, essentially. Right. And so students fall into that trap sometimes where they rewrite sample answers because they're trying to learn the format. And I think you picked up on something really important, which is like, they're great to tell you the law, but don't look at them for how you should be writing the essay. That was a little gem you had there that I wanted to pick up on, because that's a big trap. And MBE question wise, do you know about how many MBE questions you did this time?
3,700.
Yeah, that's a lot. Do you have an idea about how many you did last time?
Probably like less than 2,000. Definitely less than 2,000.
Yeah. And that's even people who come and say I did 1,800, 2,000 questions and talk to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's not enough. And like jaws drop, right? Because like that's not nothing. Like 1,800, 2,000 questions is still substantial, but that's really, you see the difference, right? You almost did double, if not more than double. And really with that pattern recognition and that consistency, that was another important word that you brought up is you kept at it little by little every day. And that's how you could get to such a big number, right? You couldn't have crammed 3,000 questions in the last month of bar prep. That doesn't work. And so sort of, and your answer to this question may be similar. But if you had someone now, new person comes into your office, it's like, I'm studying for the bar exam. Jen, you passed the bar exam. What is one tip? If you could just tell them one thing, what would be the one thing you would tell them? Do this when you're studying.
I would say do as many MBA questions as you can. Like, even if it's 30 a day, be consistent, because you can gain a lot of points from the MBE. I missed the first time I took it, I missed the passing score by 5 points. My essays are fine. They were pretty consistently high. But like the MBEs, like you can make up the difference even if you miss an essay, right? You can make up the difference of the MBEs, and it also builds up your stamina if you're doing it every day.
Yeah. So keep with those practice questions. And I keep joking that like people are going to think I like paid you guys to say practice questions, because I'd say 80% of people have said do practice questions. And I'm like, we all drank the same Kool-Aid essentially. Yeah. But this is, guys, like these are successful people who have passed the bar exam and are telling you like, if they could give you one piece of advice, it is practice questions. So hopefully you guys take them up on that. And so my last question for you is also, because we're trying to give people a little bit of a feel for what it's like working with Vinco. What is something that you really enjoyed about the experience of having a bar exam coach? I know you were working with Steven, but just in general, like what's something, he gets a lot of love around the Vinco family, but what's something that you really enjoyed that maybe somebody else who's thinking about joining us could benefit from learning about?
I really like my coach. I feel like the process of picking a coach was just like perfect. Like, if you guys were a dating app of bar prep coaches, you guys would be the best.
That is how I describe myself. I tell people I'm a matchmaker.
Yeah, like you guys are very good, because he understood one of the, I think the best things I liked about you guys is that you tailored my learning style to how I should approach the bar, and you matched me with a coach with a very similar learning style who taught me like how to study based on that style.
Yeah, that's great. And, obviously we love all of our coaches. Steve, there's been an ongoing theme, right? That Steve is obviously a good friend of mine. So we poke fun at him, but he really is great. And I know that bond, that approach is important. And so I'm really glad you highlighted that, because that's something I actually don't talk much about, is how students and coaches get matched up. And I really do put a lot of thought into it. I look at, you know, practical things like schedule and how that's going to work. But really, I do look at those like, you know, what is Jenn's issue and what coach is best equipped to help her with that. And I'm glad that that's something that you appreciated once you were matched with your coach. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today, and congratulations again. If you guys out there are interested in learning more about Vinco, you can find us at vincoprep.com, and I will see you all next time.